Before we get started, I'd like to say thank you for stopping by. This is an experimental project that has been in the works for some months now between Casey Toby and myself, Philip Deans. We've been wanting to learn about the process of game design and development for a long time now. We both have backgrounds in animation, and we have some idea of how complicated things can get on large projects like this, but game development is just so much more. And so we want to learn more through these small projects. We want to invite as many people to come along, learn with us, learn from our mistakes, and, well, be motivated to do some of this work themselves and learn themselves in this exact same way. It's very useful. We think that there's a lot that can be gathered through direct experience like this. In order to do that, we'd like to receive feedback as much as possible. I can be reached on Twitter at Gaucho Barbado, and Casey, he can be reached at Tobytown. Also, of course, leave comments down below. Let us know what you think, whether we're doing something stupid, whether we are doing something right, whatever is interesting, whatever is annoying. Let us know. We want to adjust the process of presentation, at least, to be accessible to as many people as possible. And we want to hear back from either inspirations you've had, ideas you have for us, and just to know how people feel about this. We want everybody to be able to go forward and make games themselves, because if you've always wanted to make them, you should get started as soon as possible, and we hope we can facilitate that. And without further ado, here is Episode 1 of Dr. Strange Game and How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Just Start Making Games. Hello and welcome to Dr. Strange Game and How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Start Making Games. And I'm Philip Deans.
I'm Casey Toby, and we're gonna game jam.
Yes. Okay. So we got some ideas here, and we're gonna see where they go. I don't know what ideas you've thought up over the days, but I have some ideas.
Well, throw them at me.
So, as you know, but everybody else may or may not know, I ride the train to work every day. And I was actually thinking about this, the weird social thing of nobody ever wanting to sit next to other people in public spaces. And so making a game around that.
It could be about not wanting to be in like adjacent stalls in the men's room.
Yeah.
Or adjacent urinals.
You're...
Anyway, but yes, okay. Continue.
So, as far as like specific ideas, I don't know. The first thing that kept coming to mind was like an action puzzle like Tetris thing where you just have like a bus or a train or something, and you just get like a person and you have to put them somewhere on the train, and some people are okay with sitting next to each other and others aren't, but you never get to pick who the next person is. So that was just like the basic idea. I just thought that was kind of a interesting thing, just how people interact, because I always sit by myself.
Yeah,
but then there's that guy, I don't know who he is, but he's usually gets on the train when I get on, and he always wants to talk to me. Which, if he's listening, which he probably isn't, but if he is, no hard feelings, but it is annoying. He goes on about his skateboards all the time, and that's cool, but I'm not a skateboard guy. I don't know why he thinks I'm a skateboard guy, but, he does want to. Or you get, like, the weird, kind of sketchy people that come and, like, sit, like, right next to you and try to talk about magic bracelets and stuff, and you're just like, I don't know, why are you talking to me? The one guy who's just, like, going on and on about how cool he thought this one bike was, and he kept mentioning the girl who owned it a whole bunch, because I guess he asked her about it or something. It was really creepy. He's like, yeah, she's really attractive, but, I have a girlfriend. It's like, are you telling me this? But anyway, that's like the main idea I've thought of just in my daily life as a little quirk of human interaction.
Just call it Strangers on a Train, like the Hitchcock movie. And I don't know. I mean, obviously just make it a puzzle game, right? Part of me wants like some like little mini text adventure where you like lose points if you like, or you like lose health if or sanity if you like sit by weird people who like ramble at you or something like that.
Or just make it you do it in kind of a visual novel format or something.
Yeah.
Where your goal is to try and not have conversations with people. And if you do, like, you sit next to some people and you have to like scroll through just like crap tons of dialogue. Just like, gosh dang it. That's all it is you're just like getting on different forms of public transportation.
Like you've got to like make it to your job with like your sanity intact.
Oh, that would be a really fun one. The thing is you'd have to write
Yeah.
a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Then again, who cares if it's any good?
Then again, whatever. That's what you get the people on the train to write it for you. Like, you would love to like spout about your life, right?
So, oh man, I don't know. That would be fun. I mean, what? How else could you work that?
Yeah,
First person shooter, except you don't shoot.
Except you don't shoot. You just,
or a platformer.
Yeah, how would you work? Because I really like I like the idea of like somehow gamifying that experience. I'm just not like sure how to do that, because that's like a funny experience that, you know,
everybody's gone through
unless they're
one of those people that actually seeks out sitting next to or talking with strangers on a train.
Which again, nothing against you, you weirdos.
Just most everybody else aren't looking for that.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. You're wonderful. You're wonderful that you want to like share in the human experience with others. Like, how would you like gamify that experience? That's very interesting. I mean, you could just like Tetris it. Yeah.
I mean, that was the first thing I thought of. But I mean, how that mechanically it makes sense. Mm-hmm. But to capture the human experience of it, it's a little distant. What I was thinking about why maybe some other ideas could be more fun. I mean, text like graphic novel thing or something would be kind of a fun way to do it. An RPG.
Yeah, for reals, an RPG.
Or RPG where you're the bus driver, but your party is basically the people on the bus. I don't know how that would work.
If we're game jamming, we could just make, it's like the shortest RPG ever, where it's like you're just trying to like get to a nice like empty seat in the back of the bus. And you keep having random encounters where some like person wants to tell you about their skateboard. I don't know.
Or you have something where it's this, you have to make it to your stop, but your health bar goes down for every box of dialogue you have to encounter. So you have to keep moving around. Well, I mean, you could also have, so going on the RPG route, going through lines of dialogue maybe like hurts you, but certain people you can have a conversation with that's actually like good and that heals you, but it's a matter of like trying to like gauge, I don't know how you do that, like what sorts of cues. Again, it kind of doesn't matter that much. In a week, you probably couldn't figure out the perfect solution to that, but you could try. You could try to make that clear.
So I had mentioned before that it'd be funny to make something in RPG Maker.
We could make this an RPG Maker.
We could make this an RPG Maker.
It would actually probably not be that bad.
Like, go full anime on it too. I make that sigh noise because still there's like a little part of me that just wants to artistically capture the experience of being annoyed by somebody on a bus.
I already worked on a short film that was that, pretty much.
Oh, that is 100% true. That's like that really is like what that is. It's like the anxiety of like human interaction on a bus.
Yeah. So you could go all anime on it. I mean, it would fit with the aesthetic if it was an RPG or a visual novel. We might have to recruit Jason for it though.
I think he'd be all in. We should. What if we made it so that it's the entire RPG takes place on a magic, or like just maybe not magic, but like a bus? Okay, and so maybe ditch the whole like you have to. Oh, I don't know. I was gonna say ditch the whole like awkward weird person sitting by. Capture that feeling that I was obsessing over a second ago, and it's just like all the tropes of like a JRPG, but just all happens on like a bus. I don't know.
You could. So you could make that work too. Just something like you're trying to get to an empty seat. People are either like stopping you or trying to get you to sit next to them, or people are just blocking the way.
Mm-hmm. And you have to have like battles with them, but instead, I don't know. How would that work?
I don't know. You could have like use the RPG Maker battle thing.
Yeah.
But it's all of your attacks are just lines of dialogue. I don't know. It almost reminds me of something like Earthbound or something, where you just have really goofy enemies. Or it's just new age retro hippie.
Yeah.
And they just do like weird attacks. You're just like, this makes no sense as like a battle, but it's happening anyway.
You're like, I'm gonna accept this surreal world of the game.
We could just make it really bizarre, which I'm all for.
Yeah.
The weirder the better.
Even though I feel like the 90s already like cornered the market on the whole like Ren and Stimpy Earthworm Jim weirdness.
Whatever, we can bring that back.
No,
you don't want to.
It's not my favorite aesthetic. But I mean, I'm all for weird. I'm all for surreal experiences. Ooh, we should make some real surreal.
Well, what works best for public transit? I mean, it can get pretty weird sometimes.
We could have. I mean, we should just have like this whole like David Lynch experience that this poor player goes through.
It's like Eraserhead the game.
It's like Eraserhead on the bus the game.
Oh.
I'm like curious about surreal stuff. I mean, video games are like surreal the movie.
All video games?
Well, things like Mario where it's like, yeah, you're just like in this world and you jump on mushrooms and capture mushrooms and like the whole world's like
the more you think about Super Mario stuff,
yeah,
the more you're like, what on earth?
Yeah,
it's
but like
super weird.
The magic is you immediately accept it the minute you're there. You're like, oh yeah, of course.
Anyway, do we want to make a surreal bus game, or do we want to just stick with vanilla anime?
Oh my gosh, it could be anime and get surreal. I feel
like I need to rewatch some David Lynch or something.
Yeah, I'm like very interested in in how things that are like a little more like things that are a little more surreal, like kind of like the emotional, I don't know how to word this. This is also a conversation for another time. I'm like very curious about surrealism. But partially because I have like really vivid dreams and I'm like always trying to figure out how I could like portray them. They oftentimes have like very similar feelings. It's like way too hard to explain, but I'm like, I wonder if I could like wordify this or artify this.
Well, that's pretty much what surrealism is
about, right? There's a game. What's it called? It's pretty interesting. It's like Highway 77 or something like that. It was okay. It didn't. Some people it like blows them away. Like it's. What's it called? Lost. Yeah, it's like kind of like...
Is that the one you played a while ago?
Yeah.
Like Kentucky Route.
Something. Yeah.
I've never played it.
Like, because I've talked to some people where that's just like their favorite game of all time, which is weird because it's like a grand total of like 2 hours of gameplay, and you just sort of like go on this kind of like mildly strange little experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this guy, on like driving around at night. It's like a little surreal and like a little like weird, and it's like very like dreamlike.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It looks really cool.
Yeah, it was like a little bite of a game. Yeah. Anyway, this is all like a tangent for another time, perhaps. I mean, it's kind of relevant.
Hey, we're talking about the style of getting on a bus with strangers.
Oh, so true. We could make something.
Like I said, it can get weird. Because the weird thing is you never know how people around you are gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's like they freak out about something, or they just come over and start talking about something weird, or they just are annoying. Oh, the worst is when people start whistling on the train. And the thing is, like, I know there's like a lot of people who get annoyed with whistling, and I normally don't. Like, I normally don't mind people whistling at all, but on the train, I don't know what it is. I think it's a confined space, and like the acoustics of the train like amplify it. Oh my gosh. There was one time it was like 15 minutes of this guy with the shrillest whistle you've ever heard, just going nonstop. I lasted like 30 seconds before I was just like, I might kill this person. This is too much. I hoped that every stop he'd get off, and he didn't. He didn't get off until the Provo stop, where I got off.
And then he came to your house.
Oh my gosh.
Followed you home.
And every once in a while, he'll be at the train station when I'm waiting to go home, and he'll be whistling. And now it's just like immediately, I'm just like...
You're like, I'll just miss the train. I just missed the train.
It's just, please stop. So things like that, or the lady who didn't get to the door when they announced before the stop that the stop was coming up and to get ready. The train had been sitting there for like 2 minutes, and then she went down to leave, but the doors had locked at that point. And as she kept pressing the button, it wouldn't open. She's freaking out, and then train like left, and she's like, "What's going on?" It's like, it stopped for a while at the last stop, and then everybody's like, well, it's too late now." And one of the train workers came by and was like, "Well, when it says to get off the train before the train stopped, you need to get to the door, because the doors sometimes are only open for like 30 seconds and then they lock and you need to get out. And if you're not out, the train's just going to leave." She's like, "Well, I didn't know that." It's like, well, just get ready to leave before your stop. Sorry, it's too late now. And then like she had to like call her husband or something, and she was freaking out, and I guess he was freaking out. Like it was just turned into this like scary yelling. It's like, what's going on? Wasn't expecting it. It's only happened like once or twice, but every once in a while, you never know what's gonna happen.
We could call the game Uncomfortable People Adventures on a Train. Discomfort on the train. The milk of human kindness on the train. No, whatever, called Strangers on a Train, like the Hitchcock movie. I'd dig making something that's like kind of a little non-linear in the sense of like it's not really like a specific thing, like it's just like this weird experience on a train.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I'd have to like think about it a lot more, because honestly, yeah, when I or coming into this, I was thinking basically everything we were gonna make was gonna be like everything in my head was like pretty like silly.
This could get silly.
But now in my head, I want it to be kind of like whoa, like a little trippy. Like, what is this?
It could be fun.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm up for whatever, and I love the idea of just capturing how unpredictable the whole experience is, even if it gets. I mean, we could get it really weird. You could have weird creatures coming on the train or whatever, almost like the bathhouse in Spirited Away or something.
Mm-hmm.
Except it's a train. Yeah,
we could do something where it starts really normal and then it just like descends into like madness.
Yeah.
It'd be fun if it were a real fun game too. I don't know what I don't even know.
Well, it depends on what we're going for.
I have no like perception of what mechanic would even be.
I mean, if we're gonna aim for 1 week, we can only really focus on so much. I mean, then again, we do have at least us two.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jason if he wants to get involved.
Whatever.
But
get Mike Grover involved in this, because he's trippy to begin with as far as like the stuff he makes.
Oh man,
this is like his jam.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him about that. So as far as visual stuff, let's go for a descent into crazy.
I
madness, crazy.
Descent into madness on the train because people are annoying.
The game.
It's like what you want to do every time something like that happens. Like if you had your way, you would like push the ejection seat button on those people. You would just, like underneath your civilized facade, you would duct tape them into like duct tape mummies because they're so obnoxious.
Well, visually, that's a pretty good way to go. I'm happy with duct tape mummies. Just how weird we can get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now that you mention it, Mike Grover is perfect.
Yeah, because his stuff, Mike Grover is an animator and a comic artist, a friend of ours, and his stuff is like warm-heartedly surreal.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Like everything he makes is very like randomly like elephants are coming out of fridges and stuff, but it's all very like warm-heartedness to it. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, Yeah, it's like a friendly surrealness.
Yeah.
Instead of like some surreal things where it like makes you really uncomfortable, like David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the opposite, where it's like pleasantly weird.
Yeah.
Instead of like uncomfortably weird, where you're just like the Eraserhead baby. You know, you see it and you're like,
yeah. Yeah.
Whereas it's like if Mike Grover did it, it'd be something like,
it'd be like a pizza, and it would like have like a friendly but sassy attitude or something.
yeah, instead of gross, it'd just be kind of silly.
Ding! Here I am. Hey. So, I'm a cartoonist and a motion graphics designer in Provo, Utah. I went to school with these guys, and now I've been just working on a bunch of projects, working on a graphic novel pitch and a few mini comics.
Cool.
Who do you pitch it to? I don't know, like that world.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to get a pitch document together that I can start sending around to some agents and some publishers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like a book, except for you don't have it written.
Right, yeah. So the idea is I'm going to make this graphic novel. It'd be great if someone showed interest before I spent a bunch of time making it. But if not, I'll just make it anyway.
It's happening regardless.
Yeah, and try that route. Kickstarter or something.
Neato.
So Mike's stuff often has a certain level of like strangeness to it. I guess last time the word we were throwing around was surrealism. That's like the word of the day.
I dig it.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever like sat down and been like, I do surreal art.
Well, I don't know. I do think about it sometimes, because one of the reasons I like animation and cartoons is because of how far you can push things. There's a level of suspension of belief that's more than in other mediums. And so sometimes when I'm working on something, I do feel like, oh, this is too straight-laced. I need to do another pass on it and try and push it further. So it is conscious sometimes.
That makes sense. From what I've seen of your stuff, I could see that thought process going into it.
Yeah.
Cool. We were right in guessing that your ideas kind of fit with where we were going. So we're thinking about how weird sometimes it gets when, say, because I ride the train every day to work.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are weird on the train.
Sure.
It's like most of the time it's pretty normal, but every once in a while you'll have like somebody freaking out about something stupid, or just some weird guy like is relentless about trying to have a conversation with you, and you're just like, please stop. But they're like talking about some weird thing about who knows what. It's like, yes, and I have a house in this place, but you know I haven't been there in years, and because you know I've been looking for bananas. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's like, I don't want you talking to me, but sure, whatever, I'll listen. I don't have much of a choice. And you're just like, this is weird.
Yeah.
So it's just
yeah, there's a certain absurdity to the situation, right? You got all these strangers that
like,
normally wouldn't be around each other.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the time there's not much going on, but the idea of just the more people there are, you know, sometimes the chances of weird interactions kind of increases. So visually, we're like, Mike Grover is perfect for that. And also, if he's already thinking that way, maybe he has some interesting input for other things as well.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we basically just brought you just to chat with you pleasantly about it.
Yeah.
We're like, no,
we're actually more like, hey, we haven't hung out with Mike.
Yeah.
Well, I'm flattered.
Yeah.
This is great.
So as far as like having a distinctive purpose, we kind of don't. It's just kind of like, hey, this is kind of like Mike Grover stuff. Let's talk to Mike Grover.
Yeah, I dig it because, yeah, we get to like hang out at 10 o'clock on a weekday, but it feels productive because there's microphones.
I always feel a twinge of guilt when I'm like, my wife goes off to work and I'm like, I'm gonna go record stuff with Philip.
Yeah, I feel that all the time because I sit in my room and I draw and animate all day, and like 20 feet away my wife is like wrangling a toddler and a baby and like cleaning the house, and you know,
yeah,
it's kind of a weird thing, but so far it pays the bills, so I guess it's justified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, we were just thinking of of how we could turn it into some like we could. Oh well, to explain also to Mike, basically what we would like to do is a series of accomplishable projects, like little game jams, basically.
Yeah.
Or other things too, but basically, I mean the core idea is game jams. That because we've done some projects, we've gotten pretty far in a bunch of them, but they were very like long term, very like involved.
Yeah.
And there kind of comes a point where like without any sort of like monetary backing or anything, if it's like, oh, this is like a 2-year project, it's like hard to like keep it going. So these are like things that we could do in like a week.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
To just create something.
Basically like sketching, but with
games.
That's how Philip explained it to me, and that was like my favorite because I was like, oh yeah, sketching. I know about that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, I think I did that 24-hour comic, and it was motivated by a similar idea to have a very specific constraint and just have something finished.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're going for. Both as just something to create something, but then also having the constraint of 1 week, and then that allows us to hone our skills and to have like a specific scope, some specific idea to shoot for. That's what we're going for with this.
Cool. So this will be like an ongoing thing where
Okay. We want to try and do one every week.
Every week, wow.
If possible.
Yeah.
We're going to have to work our way up to that.
Yeah. Cuz I imagine realistically they might take a little longer to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless we like are really smart about how we plan out the projects, but
well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah. It's just like a practice makes perfect kind of thing. Also, I really liked your 24-hour comic a lot, actually.
Oh, thank you.
It's not even flattery. I like genuinely was like quite delighted by it.
Oh.
I was surprised because I figured that like 24-hour comic can't be like that good. I was just like, whatever these are going to be. It was pretty delightful.
Well, thank you. I mean, you might experience something similar to what I experienced in that process where since I did have such a small time frame, I felt liberated to just go with the first ideas that came to my head and just kind of run with it and not second guess myself or noodle or belabor anything. And so creatively it was really satisfying that way. So I think if you set similar constraints where like you had a hard stop deadline, you'll probably have a similar experience. Cause I think for something like that, it does require that, it does require that you're like willing to put in some late nights and actually be committed to the deadline.
Yeah, that is very true.
And what's nice too about the 24-hour comic, and again, it might apply to what you're doing, is that normally when you make something, nobody knows how long you spent on it, and so they judge it at face value, right? The work stands for itself. But when you do something like this, part of the appeal from an audience perspective is this constraint that it was made under, and that adds to their appreciation of the product. So it's almost like watching improv comedy as opposed to stand-up, right? Like part of what makes improv funny is that you're aware of the fact that they're making it up on the spot.
That's a good point. I never really thought about that.
That's very interesting.
So you're a lot more forgiving as an audience in that scenario.
Yeah, please forgive us.
We know not what we do.
We're also basically ad-libbing this.
Yeah.
Can you forgive us all around, oh ye imaginary audience?
I mean,
I'll listen to it.
This meeting with Mike was basically just impromptu, like, hey, we should talk to him.
Yeah.
Then we didn't even tell him what it was.
I literally didn't know what we were going to talk about until now. So far so good though.
So yeah, we were trying to think of how to like gamify. I mean, here's like the highfalutin concept, right? But it's like how to gamify the experience of that train experience, basically. Like,
yeah,
we kind of started throwing around being kind of like turning it kind of like surreal. I mean, we talked about a whole bunch of different, like, as far as the actual like mechanic of the game, whether it be like something just like a platform and you like walk through a train, or if it's like a point and click adventure. I don't know. I have no idea. They all sounded kind of good, but basically it's like maybe something that would start kind of normal and then like descend into something a lot more strange.
Yeah, like kind of slowly build.
Yeah.
But also, we have the constraint of 1 week.
Yeah.
So
tell me more about that. Do you have like a start day?
I mean,
we will someday. Probably today.
Yeah, today or...
That sounds stressful.
I mean, for me, it'd probably be like tomorrow when I'd start trying to code some of it, but...
Yeah.
This one, it might be easiest, though, if we went until next Friday,
Mm-hmm.
just so we can get started and try and start the next one on Monday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely work up to shorter time frames. That makes sense.
So anyway, the main thing that we've kind of settled on is like a building surreal nature, visually mostly.
Mm-hmm.
But then another question that we haven't quite answered yet is, mechanically speaking, from a game design perspective, how do you also do that?
Oh, like make the gameplay surreal as well.
Yeah. And
Cool.
so that was something that we were starting to talk about, and then our carpet started getting cleaned and it was amazing. And then that's when we kind of stopped. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what the best way to go about that is. And not that you necessarily know either, but maybe you just have some ideas about what are weird things that can happen in life in general. But
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when you started talking about the whole train thing, I immediately had like some experiences come to mind. Like I served my mission in Thailand. I served an LDS church mission in Thailand for 2 years. And when I lived in Bangkok, then we would ride the train. We would ride the subway in the morning. And that was, even when everything was normal, it was inherently really surreal because the cars would just be packed full of people, like tons of people in there, and you're all right up next to each other, and everyone was completely silent, which is just really bizarre. Like it was kind of a social faux pas to be speaking,
mm-hmm.
you know, on those early morning commutes. And you could like smell everybody's like deodorant and perfume, and you're like right up next to each other, and it's hot, and it's just totally silent, and it was so bizarre. And then you get off the train, and it's like you just forget about it and move on with your day. So that was, I don't know, that was one thing that came to mind.
That's interesting, because it kind of everywhere, I guess, in a sense, there's like a whole, I don't want to talk to other people, but it's interesting that there it's like a social understanding that you don't.
Yeah, and that might be true in other big cities like New York and in other places here as well.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Because I mean, here on the train, like people generally don't, but you still get people that will try to talk to you.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
Probably because we don't have a public transportation culture at all, so there's not really any preconceived notions about how you're supposed to interact with people. I'm guessing. Like there's a guy that when I usually go into work, he usually gets on the train when I do, and he usually gets on the train when I leave work.
Mm-hmm.
Like we get off and on at the same stops. But he'll try to talk to me pretty often about skateboards, and I don't know why. I don't skateboard. like
just like that guy looks like someone who would skateboard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to him about it.
I mean, he's a nice guy, but it's just like frustrating because it's like I don't feel like talking to anybody right now.
Yeah.
Let alone some guy I don't know about something I don't care about. I mean, or like one time we got stuck at the train station in Lehigh waiting for a train for like an hour, and he went on and on about basic facts about things that I already knew. Just things like, did you know that the stars are actually billions of light years away? It's like, yeah. And he's like, did you know that the way the moon rotates and orbits the earth, you only see one side? It's like, yeah, cool.
Have you ever tried to bail out? Like be like, oh, I have to, I don't know, is there a bathroom on the train? Have you ever been like, oh, I gotta use the bathroom, and then just like go somewhere else?
I've got to open the window and leave.
Well, the bathroom's usually not on the...
I gotta climb out of this train.
Goodbye.
Usually my solution has been, when I get to the train station, put in my headphones.
Yeah.
And like
appear to be
not
look
out.
At him. Just to
does it work?
Eye contact. Usually, yeah.
Okay.
So, I feel like a kind of a jerk now that I talk about it like that, but at the same time, just.
But it's a very like understandable experience. I mean, we've all like had that to some extent.
Totally.
Where you're just like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah. I mean, I do that in places where it's totally like acceptable to be talked to, like school or church or something, where somebody like coming in for the kill because they want to like meet you, and you're like, help. But so there we go. Eye contact. We should make that a thing.
Oh yeah, you could have some sort of eye contact thing.
Like the little pixel art, but you can just like tell that their eyes like shift towards you and you're like, crap.
Is it going to be like 8-bit?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't know.
No, 8-bit is very charming.
Well, and it's fast.
It's fast to do. There's a good chance it will be. But as far as gamifying those experiences, though,
No.
that's the tricky thing.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the initial ideas was like if it was like a puzzle type thing, or you could do it almost like Tetris, where you're just picking where people go, or maybe you have something like the that like card traffic jam like board game thing where you like slide the cars. Maybe something like that.
Something like that would be funny because it would kind of mirror what it feels like when it's completely packed in a subway car.
Yeah.
It is kind of like a dehumanizing thing where everyone's just stacked up against each other.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are the most gamey ideas I've had.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, other ones we had were like making it like a visual novel where it's just you're trying to avoid dialogue instead of trying to have dialogue.
Yeah, like dialogue like hurts you or something.
Right. Yeah, or maybe you're just one, instead of moving around all of the passengers, you're one character and you're trying to find a seat not next to like a weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure mechanically how that would work.
I mean, you could just do how you make it interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because it could just be dialogue with the different people. You could have something where it's just like you try and like sit in a seat, but if they like start scooting next to you, you're like, oh shoot, I should probably leave this seat.
Right.
Man, what if like everyone just like is constantly like getting closer to you?
There's somebody on the train who's just following you.
Oh, actually.
And is always trying to sit next to you, and you're just like, gosh dang it.
Yeah. You could even like have this mysterious like stranger character, with like the trench coat and the glowing eyes or something, and you're like trying to get away from him.
And eventually it turns into a first-person shooter.
Well, see, now that's interesting. If it like talking about escalating surreality, like if it starts out as a point-and-click dialogue game, and then eventually it does become like first-person shooter, or like something like a completely different kind of gameplay.
Huh.
Well, I mean, if we have like a week and a half to do it, that might be a little bit more possible.
Yeah, that's true.
Week. But that would actually be kind of a funny.
That would be really funny.
One thing that's interesting, again, like thinking about my experience on public transportation, is like it starts off, normal. You're just trying to get from point A to point B. Then you're in the train and it's weird. And then you're out of the train and it's normal again. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting if the mechanics had that bookend feel, where you get on the train and it looks like maybe even it looks kind of boring or generic, the gameplay, and then partway through everything is crazy. People have animal heads, there's tentacles, there's all kinds of weird stuff, and then by the end of the game, everyone's just back to normal, not talking, and you get off the train and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, if we could have that escalation factor, that'd be so delightful. Like, even if it were just like a puzzle game, and like as you're trying to like arrange people in the train, things just get like nuts and faster and crazy, and this person is like a horse, and then suddenly like when you like win or lose, it just like shows like a very plain scene again of like the outside, and like the door opens, everyone just like steps out, and it's like a
right
kind of plain scene. I don't know, that could be cool.
I do like the idea though of it switching up what kind of a game it is at some point.
Yeah. It'd be interesting if you could do that in an organic way, so it's not like cutscene, now we're in a different game.
Because what if it were to start as like a point and click, just like it's like telling you some like banal little story of some sort, I don't know, but then like it suddenly turns into like a puzzle or something. Like it's like, oh no, this person wants to sit by you, now like arrange everyone so they can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
It's a tricky one.
Or it's a puzzle game, and then suddenly when somebody sits by your character, it turns into a first-person shooter, and you have to take them out. Except for you don't shoot them, you...
Right. Yeah, we don't want it to have some sort of... I don't know. I don't want the overtones to be too dark.
No. You wouldn't shoot them. It's like a first-person runner. It's like a horror game.
Right.
It's just Mirror's Edge on a train. You're just trying to get away from creepy people.
Yeah. Have you guys played Pony Island?
No.
No, but I've seen it played
Yeah.
via the internet.
Right. So yeah. So for anyone who hasn't played it, listening, the idea is that it looks like a very benign arcade game called Pony Island, and you're this little pony jumping over fences. But then you find out that the game is possessed by Satan, and so the interface of the game falls apart. Like the back button like falls off the top of the screen, and you have to like grab it and put it back, and then you're like in the code of the game trying to like exorcise demons, and that might be an interesting reference, because maybe with this game it'd be interesting if it started off and it was completely text based, where you don't even know what you're supposed to type in. It's just like the guy sitting on the train and you type in like talk to person, or whatever, find a seat. You just type in stuff like you're just guessing, but then by the end you are using your mouse to move things around, and it's no longer just text based.
Oh yeah, like maybe like images
interesting.
appear slowly, like on the screen.
Oh yeah, like at first there's no.
Yeah, it's just like text.
Just
it's just
text,
like it's just
yeah.
like, so you're on a train, and it's like, and it's like, grab your flask.
Yeah.
Can I grab your flask? I like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never done like a text. I've done a little bit.
Yeah, ironically, my main experience with games like that, where you're typing in text, is games that are like parodying
Games that are like
the
that.
games that like the Homestar Runner games or like Pony Island and stuff like that.
Mhm. So that's an interesting thing too, because I wonder. Like the more I think about that, the more like that could be complicated to make.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is the good thing about working with a time constraint.
You can be like,
because you can spitball ideas, and then you're like, okay, now how do we actually scale that back and make it possible to make in a week?
well, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, well, if you do a text-based thing, maybe you'd actually want it to just be instead of being able to type in whatever, it'd be like you have choices. It's like a multiple choice type deal.
Right.
What if there's like one train car and you're just on it, and there's like some people on it, and you just, again, like we said last time, it's not like a point and click in that your guide travels around so much as you can like click on things, and it just like shows, and first it's like a train car and it's just kind of like rattling, and you just like see characters, and you can like, it'll just do that indefinitely if you don't do anything.
Yeah.
And then you could like click on somebody and like something will happen. Something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could have something like that. Or it wouldn't necessarily have to be point and click either. Like you could just do a normal arrow key type setup. Like if it just was like a simple, you get on the train, you're the only person on a train, and somebody comes on the train and they sit somewhere, and then the train stops at the next stop, and then somebody gets on the train and they just, of all the seats, they sit like next to you,
Yeah.
So, something like that where it's just.
What if you've got like we don't even like tell you don't even tell the game or the player or the audience or whatever, but you're like just sitting there, like how things work, and they come and sit by you, and suddenly you start taking like damage or whatever. You like take
Or just
sanity damage, and so somebody's got to like move, and
so you just figure it out.
Yeah, you just like realize that like
when people are near you, things get weirder.
Yeah.
You could have like a little health bar type thing, but also just things get weird.
Yeah.
Things slowly start turning into other stuff. Or
yeah, that's interesting. So now somebody turns into a flying shark, and you have to like dodge them. Like you have to jump over them or something.
Or like,
or were you going somewhere else with that? I interrupted you.
I mean it could. But as far as keeping things simple, it's just visually things get changed, like say the lower health you have, and it's just you're trying to avoid people essentially.
And what if it's there's like a time limit until you stop, and you can like see at the bottom it's like you've just got like 5 stops or something, and you just like have to basically like stay sane.
Yeah, and something like sitting at window seats heals you. But if somebody comes in and sits in between you and the window seat, you have to like crawl over them to get out.
Yeah,
and that like does oodles of damage.
Yeah, it does way more.
And
so it's like if you see somebody get on your, oh crap! I know
and as things get like weird, like at first maybe it's like you were sitting by a guy, or like somebody came and sat by you, and you had to like go somewhere else to avoid them, and suddenly they like just sort of like you're like taking a little damage and things are getting, they like just transport to you or something. You're like, like weird things like that. But then suddenly it goes bananas toward the end.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I'm digging that.
I'm liking that too.
Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Okay, you can send my royalty checks to this address. This also makes me think of Bothered, which was a film made by BOU's animation program a few years ago. Had some similar concepts.
Which I worked on.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, it is like this concept of being not wanting to sit by somebody on a train.
Yeah, like an introverted girl, right, sitting on the train. Extroverted girl comes and starts talking to her, and then she turns into a monster and
because
freaks out.
Because anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Similar idea, that's for sure. Except executed over a much shorter period of time.
Right. And in a completely different medium and style, and
Yeah.
Whatever, we could make it a game where it's completely 2D animated, like whatever those Don Bluth games are.
Oh, yeah.
Like Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's Lair.
Right.
Just, where it's just like...
Or Cuphead now.
Oh, yeah, Cuphead.
Has anyone played that yet?
I have not played it yet.
No, that kind of game is like not my cup of tea, but
Like Boss Rush.
yeah. But I mean, I sure do love looking at it. I mean, I've looked at Cuphead a lot because I just adore it to pieces. Because who wouldn't? Because that aesthetic is just so But yeah, like as far as like playing games like that, it's not something I enjoy.
Sure.
It's like not my kind of game.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I should just play it. No, I like watch videos of Cuphead all the time just so I can like see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the animations on it are so good.
Oh my goodness.
They definitely got like a perfect they got that style down pat.
Yeah. Yeah, they emulated it really accurately, but then they also updated it, I feel. Like it doesn't feel like it's just copying.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a fresh take on Fleischer Brothers animation.
Yeah. But how about we not do that, because that'd take a lot of time.
Whatever.
How long were they working on Cuphead?
It's been a few years.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it's
like
like
I remember when they first announced it, like the first announcement video, and it was a while ago.
That was quite a while ago.
Yeah. I just forgot about it, and they're like, "Hey, it's coming out," and I was like, "Oh, that isn't out. Like it hasn't been out for a long time."
But as far as where we want to go with actually what we're doing, so the idea of it getting weirder based on how uncomfortable you are, I guess, in the game, which would basically just be a health bar. But
or that could just happen over time.
Yeah,
regardless of
I think
how
both,
it affects
right?
you.
Yeah, it could be kind of both, and just like the train fills up with people.
Maybe it's like a bird's eye view of the train, and there's a bunch of empty seats at first, and you have to strategically choose a seat where you think it won't fill in, but also you'll have like an escape path if it does fill in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, also the idea of being able to see the people's eyes, it'd be kind of fun. Like if you could, when they get on the train, you can see like kind of where they're looking.
That's interesting.
And so like their eyes kind of fixate on like a particular seat. And so you could be sitting somewhere like, okay, he's not coming here. But every time they come in, you're like, Or if they're like walking down the aisle and all of a sudden their eyes like change. And all of a sudden they're looking at you, you're like, oh crap. And you like have to try and switch some seats.
I wonder if like to make it a little more easy to read what's going on, if you still did have a bird's eye view and there was just a dotted line extending out, and that represents where they're looking, and that dotted line is kind of moving back and forth.
We could also do like is it orthographic?
Yeah.
So it's you're still like above, but then they're just kind of at that.
But they're still at perpendicular to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, well, it'd be almost like an old school Zelda game.
Yeah.
Where it's very much like a isometric kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really isometric, but it has like a kind of a top-down feel, but then the character is like all the characters are actually, their sprites look like they're like almost from a side view.
Right, they're flat on the screen.
Yeah, like realistically they make no sense in the space that they exist, but it still works.
Yeah, that would work.
Something like that would probably be easiest. But I mean, one of the nice things is we could basically just make like just a one picture of what the train looks like and just use that as an asset.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't have to build like the seat asset necessarily.
Right.
You know, we can just build that and then just place triggers and
Yeah.
you know, collision objects and stuff that are invisible on top of it. So that's a time-saving device. I don't know. A lot of that stuff I'll have to figure out because I'm gonna be programming it. But
Sucker.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's pretty possible. I think that one of the big challenge though is having enough visual assets to get some interesting surreal stuff going on
Yeah.
in that amount of time. So we probably have to limit how much animation's actually really going on with some of this stuff.
Which this style we're talking about actually lends itself nicely to that too, because if anything, it could just, that couldn't even be animation. Like it can just be like a little like sprite that slides around.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just like and maybe there's an animation. Maybe it's just like 2 little pixels of feet that are just like.
Yeah, that'd be like a 3-frame animation.
Yeah.
We'll animate it if we have time.
Yeah.
Sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a. I think like as I'm imagining in my head, being like kind of pixely, almost like you said, like almost like in that Zelda realm of pixeliness.
Mm-hmm.
But like yeah, like if people just kind of like slide around, like it doesn't. I don't think as an audience or player will be like, oh, that's stupid. Like it just kind of like fits how that looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could work.
And then you could save animation time for when things are getting a little more crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, somebody's head becomes like a tentacle. And so there's like a little animation of it's like.
Yeah, like what kind of weird things would you expect to see on Weird Train?
Yeah, good question.
There's a duck going up and down the aisle that if you hit him, you insta lose.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. Yeah, definitely animals.
Yeah.
Trench coats. I don't know. What are you mentioned some of the strange things you see on your commute. Are there any things that you could pull from and just push them to a more extreme level? Like you talked about a guy always talking about skateboards. It could be a guy who is a skateboard.
Yeah, just an anthropomorphic skateboard.
Yeah.
We could like record audio for it that like if somebody gets close to you, start like hearing their conversation they want to have. They're like, "Hey, everyone, a skateboard. Talk to you about skateboards." You're like,
that's a really good idea.
That's like one of my favorite things is that I like just skate. And then like later he like turns into a skateboard.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool if you got creative with the audio mixing like that.
And it's just when they like it's. I assume it's not too complicated to like trigger that when they just like get close enough to, because otherwise it's just like train sounds or whatever.
No, that'd be easy. That'd be probably really easy.
Cool. I think probably like babies are a problem sometimes in public transportation. You have like a giant crawling baby that's just like
Takes up like more
crying and pooping and like.
just when it's next to you, it's just making like cry. It just cries and then fart noises.
Yeah.
It's just.
I was gonna like do the audio for that, just then I said nope. I don't really want to like make fart noises.
So if I understand the mechanics we're talking about right, it sounds like there'd really just be walking around with arrow keys and then maybe a button to like sit in a seat, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe
it would
your
be really simple.
Oh,
maybe your health recharges when you're sitting in a seat with no one next to you.
Yeah.
But then when you're moving around or next to somebody, then your health bar goes down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be something very simple like that.
Yeah.
And if it can be made really quickly, maybe try adding some other things, but
yeah,
the core would just be trying not to sit in a seat next to people, I guess.
Yeah, and I would think that standing isn't good either, right? Because the whole idea is you want to be comfortably sitting away from people.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could also have things like when it starts getting full enough, like you'll have people starting to like fill in the aisles, so you have less and less space to move around in.
Yeah.
It just starts constricting more and more.
Interesting. And yeah, there could be like there's like 2 spaces in the aisle, you know, so you can have like
2 lanes.
2 lanes. There we go. And so like at first, like if somebody's there, you might just have to like go around, squeeze past people, but eventually, yeah, like we could control space in the train by like being like, yeah, now there's like 2 people and they're just like blocking this section off.
Mm-hmm.
Or we just do 1 lane. But yeah,
I mean, it's about the same amount of work either way, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas how you could make this work.
yeah.
So,
Cool.
I mean, it's not worth spending too much time pondering at this moment whether or not that would actually be enjoyable, because it's kind of hard to know.
Right.
And also, we only have so much time, and a big part of this will be having some people try it and getting feedback on that, and if it sucks, it sucks, and you can figure out why. So I think mechanically, it's an okay start.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we can do instead of it being a vague, wouldn't it be neat if about something on trains with people?
Sure.
It's like, okay, you sit in a seat, you get health, you get next to people, you lose health.
And not just like doable, but I'm actually like kind of excited about it, which is an important part of it.
Totally.
To just be like, oh yeah. But yeah, no, I like really like the idea. Like just like a simple game, but also with like this kind of like interesting idea behind it that like lends itself to choices.
Right. Yeah, and it feels grounded in reality.
Mm-hmm.
The concept, so then you can push it from there, because I think that's one problem is when people think they want to make something absurd or weird and they just start from an absurd place, and then there's nothing to ground it. So I like that you guys have picked something like an everyday normal experience as your jump off point. And I think as far as developing like weird characters, it'd be good to follow that same pattern. Like think about the types of people you do see and then how to make that as weird as possible.
It's like almost like you'd be like, what do they like look like inside your like psyche?
Yeah. What's the upside down version of them? The bizarro version of them.
It's like, sure, they're like an obnoxious person, but in your psyche, they're like even worse.
They're like a crazed beaver.
Yeah. like latches on
9 on things.
The only way you can get rid of them is crashing into the duck.
Like a kamikaze move. It's funny that you mention a duck specifically, because Philip and I were developing a game at one point, and it was going to be like a big yellow bird.
I was thinking about that when you mentioned the duck thing. It's like, oh man, that's like the
stew bird.
The stew bird, yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good advice, to just go based on real things to inspire unreal things.
That's actually pretty cool.
Surreal things, I guess.
Right.
So I'll have to keep some of that in mind when I'm on the train today.
Yeah.
Or all week.
When you have like trippy train experiences, your train's gonna turn into a dream-like extravaganza.
Even though usually the train's not too exciting here. Just every once in a while. Every once in a while you'll get the people that get upset because they decided not to get off at their stop. And they're like, why didn't it stop for me? It's like, well, it did. You just didn't get off. And then they're like freaking out like the whole time. It's like, well, there's nothing you could do about it now. And they're like fidgeting with like all the like weird controls that they shouldn't be touching, like next to the door.
You're like, you're gonna disconnect the car
because there's just a big lever for that.
Like, a big red lever.
Don't pull this.
This makes some wheels fall off.
Yeah. Or like in westerns, that's how all the chase scenes, that's what they do, right? They disconnect the cars.
Oh yeah.
Because you can just do that on a moving train. Like, lift the pin.
So easy.
Do you ever have homeless people get on the train?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. It's like trains and libraries, right? That's
like my plan. If I ever, well,
just live on the train and use the internet in the library.
No, is that if I were? Oh, okay. We don't. Maybe we shouldn't talk about this right now. It's a different topic for another time. But no,
Casey's contingency plan.
Yeah, if my life ever like went to pieces, I'd basically just like be like, I'd like make sure I was well groomed, and I would like hang out around a university and just like chill in the library all day and like read.
Yeah. We should be doing that now.
There's nothing stopping you.
Yeah.
I have to make a game.
That's right. You only have a week.
Yeah.
There's no time to.
There's no time to like bum it at the library.
Oh, man.
You're never a retard with a library card. Arthur taught me that.
I think they probably phrased it differently.
What? I can't remember.
Who knows? They may have actually said that.
Yeah, it was the 90s. You could use that word. Still.
Well, cool. Good jumping off spot.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for talking to me like as if I know things. It's really good for my self-esteem. Be like, yeah, I'm pretty much the expert on this, so ask all your surreal questions. Just
You're like, oh yes, that's my domain.
yeah.
I can live in the surreal. I
made
feel like having a toddler would probably be like that, but I don't actually know.
Yeah, it's. I mean, he says weird stuff all the time.
I was gonna say toddlers are like surreal little monsters.
Yeah.
They're just like an ego running around.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, just little pathological narcissists.
Yeah.
Well, they're so cute. They're just
And sometimes they fall over and it's adorable.
Right. Yeah, right now he points at things and he goes, "What's this? What's this?"
Oh, that's so cute.
Because he wants to know what everything is called.
That's
And you start telling him the wrong thing as a joke.
Yeah, I told my wife that I want to tell him that money is called filthy lucre. It's still, yeah, sometimes I think about that and I just start laughing. Just imagining this 2 or 3 year old being like, "Oh, you're the filthy lucre."
Cool.
Whoa.
What a surreal moment. Okay.
Well, see ya.
Okay, bye. Poof, and then he's gone. Wow, just like he came in.
Just
In a puff of magic.
as
surreal
soon as
smoke.
we mentioned him, he was here.
Yeah,
There wasn't 3 days in between when we started talking and when he got here at all. It was instantaneous. Now he's gone.
Just like that. Carried away by the wind. Okay, well.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I
We're
do too.
ready to go.
Yeah.
We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.